All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to explore a story that, on the surface, feels like this intense legal drama. But here's the twist. The crime? It's not in any law book. It's about this psychological summons, an inner trial that, honestly, we're all facing, whether we know it or not.
I mean, wow, what a way to kick things off, right? This isn't your garden variety guilt, like you forgot to take out the trash. No, this is something way deeper. It's this bizarre feeling of being guilty before you've even done anything wrong. And that right there, that's what sets the whole stage for this incredible journey inward.
Okay, so the story kicks off with something called the arrest. But don't picture cops and sirens. Think of it more like, the call to adventure in all those epic stories. It's that exact moment when your normal, day-to-day, predictable world just gets turned completely upside down. And this is really the heart of the whole thing. The guilt isn't for something he did. It's for who he isn't. You know that feeling, that deep, nagging sense of untapped potential. It's that gap between the person you are right now and the person you know you could be. I mean, if you've ever felt even a tiny bit of imposter syndrome, or you've put off doing something you know is important, you know exactly what this feels like. So yeah, to be clear, this arrest has nothing to do with handcuffs or squad cars. It's a psychic event. It's that jolt, that moment the autopilot you've been running on just switches off. And suddenly you're forced to actually look at the life you've been living, maybe for the first time in a long, long time. And that summons? It's not some official letter that shows up in the mail. It's a feeling that's always been humming away, just beneath the surface. And now, all of a sudden, it's loud and clear. K's kitchen, his normal, everyday kitchen, just morphs into a courtroom. It's a powerful way of showing that this trial, this deep need to look at yourself, it was always there. It was just waiting for him to pay attention. All right, so now we're getting to the trial itself. K is officially crossing the threshold. He's leaving the world he knows behind and stepping into the underworld of his own mind. This is where the real action begins. And the way this is described is just so symbolic. So he finds this hidden door, right? And the staircase, it leads down, not up. That's so important. It tells you this journey isn't about reaching for some higher power out there. It's about going deep within. The light even changes. It gets really focused, as if it's only showing what truly matters. And then you have this corridor of doors, and each one, it's a memory, a part of his past that he's just locked away and forgotten. So he gets inside this courtroom, and guess who's there? It's not a bunch of strangers. No, it's him. It's parts of himself, all personified. So you have the judge, who is his total, complete self. Then there's the prosecutor, who is his shadow, all the stuff he's pushed down and denied. The defense attorney, that's his deepest potential. And the jury? Well, the jury is every single experience he's ever had, just sitting there, watching. And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. The judge isn't sitting way up high on some elevated bench looking down on him. No, the judge is on the same level. The message is crystal clear. The ultimate authority, the one who passes judgment on your life, isn't some scary external god or force. It's you. It's your own whole, complete self. Okay, so next up, let's meet the prosecutor. And you gotta understand, this isn't some evil villain trying to throw him in jail for life. This is his shadow. It's that part of you that holds all the uncomfortable truths you've been trying to ignore. It's described as being accurate. And that's the perfect word. Its only job is to lay out the cold, hard facts of his life, especially all the ones he's pretended not to see. And then, on his side, we have the defense attorney, and she represents his potential. She is the voice of who he could become. Now, her job isn't to stand up and say, he's innocent. Not at all. She's there to argue for the process itself. She's there to reframe his entire life, not as one big failure, but as a messy, tough, but absolutely necessary journey of growth. Okay, the trial begins. The prosecution is up. And what's their main piece of evidence? What's Exhibit A? It's K. K himself. His life, his choices, all his patterns. His own shadow is literally about to put him on the stand against himself. And here it is, the central charge. This is so powerful because I think we can all relate to it. The charge isn't murder. It isn't theft. The charge is refusal of self. It's the crime of not becoming who you were meant to be, of living a substitute life, a smaller life, instead of the real one that's been waiting for you all along. And this is really the core of the prosecution's case. The real tragedy here isn't that Kay is in pain, it's that he's comfortable. He's built this little cage for himself, and it's so cozy and so familiar that he doesn't even realize he's a prisoner. He thinks his captivity is just contentment. So the prosecution lays out the evidence, step by step, like a timeline of refusal. It starts at age 7. A creative spark gets stamped out. Boom, the first split. Then, age 14, he learns to be a spectator in life, watching love from the sidelines instead of actually feeling it. Then at 23, he has this recurring dream about a lake he won't go into, a pretty clear symbol of refusing to explore his own depths. And all these choices, all these refusals, they all build up and lead to this moment, the trial, at age 37. But wait, now it's the defense's turn. And remember, the goal here isn't to get him off the hook. It's to offer a totally different way of looking at all that same evidence the prosecution just laid out.
And the strategy is honestly brilliant. The defense attorney stands up and says, "Yep, we agree with all of that. Every fact is correct." But then she completely changes the story. She says that past isn't a rap sheet of crimes. It was a necessary stage of growth. Painful, for sure, but necessary.
And you can see the two viewpoints right here, side by side. On one hand, the prosecution's view, guilty, incompletion, denial, basically a crime. But then you have the defense's view, an invitation to become something more. Not yet, instead of never, a stage of growth. It's the exact same life story, just seen through two totally different lenses, judgment versus potential.
Wow. The difference between never and not yet is the difference between death and a difficult birth. Just let that quote sit with you for a second. It perfectly captures what the defense is arguing. This whole trial isn't a death sentence for the man K used to be. It's the painful, messy, but absolutely vital process of him being born into the man he was always supposed to become. So, where does all this leave our guy, K? Well, the trial has basically cracked him wide open. But that cracking, that breaking, it's not the end. It's actually the beginning. It's the first step on the road back. The first glimmer of hope that real, deep change is actually possible. And then there's this incredibly powerful moment. Kay goes back to that corridor of doors from the beginning. He opens one, and he confronts his 7-year-old self, that little kid who was told his drawing wasn't real. And he doesn't try to analyze it or explain it away. He just kneels down, and from the heart, he says, "I'm sorry." And that right there, that's his first truly authentic act in maybe his whole life. It's the beginning of healing that very first wound. Which brings us to the big takeaway here. This inner trial, the one that we all go through in one way or another, it's not actually about guilt or innocence. It's a process. It's a mechanism that forces us to finally face the parts of ourselves we've abandoned, the parts we've pushed away, so that we can finally become whole. And so, that really just leaves one last question. Not for Kay, but for you. That summons, that feeling that you're required to appear in the courtroom of your own soul. We all get it. So the only real question is, have you answered yours?